right, so your question comes from Bonnie, and she's from Encinitas. Her question is, if a BB gun is spring-driven, why is it called an air rifle
Oh,
and or pistol?
Read that again for me, please.
If a BB gun is spring-driven, why is it called an air rifle or air pistol?
And who wrote that in?
Bonnie from Encinitas.
From Encinitas. Thank you for writing in. If a BB gun is spring-driven, why is it called an air rifle? Well, first of all, most BB guns are not spring-driven. Airsoft guns, many of them are, but BB guns, at least the kind that I had as a teenager, are driven by a pneumatic piston, which is why you have to pump it up. Most common BB guns have a forend that's hinged at the front. You open that up and then you pump it between 3 and 10 times. And what that's doing is that's pumping up the pressure in a pneumatic piston. The trigger releases the air pressure from the piston and fires the BB. Hence air rifle. Rifle also refers to a class of firearms which are, well, not firearms, a class of projectile weapons, I should say, which are more specifically called gas guns, because they'll use a cartridge of CO2 or of pressurized nitrogen to launch a projectile at much higher velocities than your backyard can shooting BB gun would achieve. And many of the higher power, higher pressure air rifles in like 45 caliber, 50 caliber are even suitable for small game hunting. So
you remember those? Alicia, you remember those little CO2, look like little tiny bottles of
Yes.
CO2 that you see?
Correct.
So, Sam, your uncle and your grandfather had a ton of those little CO2 cartridges laying around the house in the 80s growing up, long before you were around. And
It means a little something different now if people got them laying around.
well, your grandfather used them for his buoyancy compensator because he was a scuba diver, and your uncle used them for air guns, for BB guns. So we had very different.
yeah, so imagine those little gas ampoules, but much larger for a hunting style air rifle. Now, based on the wording of the question, I think I may be missing something. I may be off base with my answer here.
No.
But I have to say, I really don't know a tremendous amount about air guns. So
No, you nailed it.
My answer in a nutshell is most BB guns are not spring driven. Therefore, air rifle is still a mostly valid term, even though not all of them use just air. They'll use some kind of pressurized gas other than air, but that's my answer.
Yeah, well, you nailed it when you talked about the relationship between the spring and the piston. I'm going to read here. In 1886, the Markham Air Rifle Company in Plymouth, Michigan, produced the first wooden construct spring piston air rifle designed as a youth training gun and used a BB-sized birdshot as the chosen ammunition. 2 years later, the neighboring Plymouth Air Rifle Company, which later renamed Daisy Manufacturing Company in 1895, that's how long ago this was, introduced the first full metal air gun that also fired BB shots. The Daisy BB gun, which became a very popular household name because of successful marketing. Around 1900, Daisy changed their BB size bore diameter to .175 or 4.4 millimeter. Began marketing precision-made lead shot, which was really more of we used to call those pellet guns. BBs were the round, shot, little tiny guys, little copper dealies, and then the 0.175s were we called those pellets. Anyway, you're right. So basically, the piston creates the air pressure, and it's the mechanism is the spring. So you totally nailed it. You got it.
Another interesting note about. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What's up? Other interesting note.
Another interesting note about gas guns as a class of firearm is that, well, no, again, not firearm, projectile weapon, because they aren't firearms, they're gas guns. Anyway, another interesting note about gas guns is that NASA actually uses high power gas guns in a scientific context to simulate the effect of high speed impacts in space, either micrometeoroid impacts on spacecraft parts, or even a small scale modeling of asteroid impacts to better understand planetary formation processes. And the reason they use light gas guns has to do with the speed of sound through various gases. In order to achieve the velocities they need, they would either, if they were using a chemically actuated launcher in the same vein as a firearm like you or I are used to, they would need a propellant with a much higher ignition velocity or detonation velocity than is possible using most commonly available chemical propellants or even high explosives. So instead, what they use is they use a chemically actuated primary, if you will, to then force a piston to compress a volume of hydrogen or helium, so-called light gases. And I'm not explaining this very well, but basically it's a pneumatic system. The primary is chemically actuated. That compresses the light gas, and because the speed of sound through the light gas is much higher than it is through air or through other media, the pressure in the light gas can also be released much more rapidly, allowing them to achieve much higher muzzle velocities with the pellets they use.
Well,
now, I'm sure there are some...
Like NASA, I've done some light gas experimentation myself that definitely had a lot to do with the speed of sound. But, that's a whole other story. But anyway, interesting stuff. That's awesome. You got it right. You nailed it as always. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. I'm Michael from Gun Owners Radio. If you liked what you saw, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and make a comment. Help us out. Go to gunownersradio.com. Thanks for watching.